working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angeles. On today's headlines. Southeast Asian leaders pledge to keep trade routes open to protect food supplies and stockpile medical equipment at a summit held online as they warned of the crippling economic cost of the coronavirus pandemic. And we're live in Vietnam, Cambodia, Pattaya, Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand, EBC, Malaysia, Japan. Southeast Asian leaders pledged to keep trade routes open to protect food supplies and stockpile medical equipment at a summit held online on Tuesday as they warned of the crippling economic cost of the coronavirus pandemic, led by Vietnam, which chaired the ASEAN summit or meeting. Leaders agreed to share resources and fight to limit further damage to the region's tourism and export-reliant economies already ravaged by COVID-19. Let's listen in.
Các nước ASEAN Cộng 3 đã có truyền thống hợp tác tốt đẹp, ứng phó hiệu quả với các thách thức kinh tế, các đợt thiên tai, dịch bệnh. Trong đó có dịch bệnh SARS năm 2003. Trước sự nghiêm trọng của dịch bệnh COVID-19 hiện nay, chúng ta cần phát huy truyền thống tốt đẹp đó, thể hiện tinh thần đoàn kết, chung tay hợp tác để vững vàng vượt qua giai đoạn đầy thử thách cam go này.
But an emergency fund proposed by Hanoi to tackle the pandemic did not appear to have been given the go-ahead. In a joint declaration, leaders committed to keeping ASEAN's markets open for trade and investment with a view to ensuring food security. They also pledged to cooperate to ensure adequate supplies of personal protective equipment or PPE and diagnostic tools, as well as using reserve warehouses to support the needs of ASEAN member states in public health emergencies. China later said it planned to set up a special fund to help ASEAN countries combat the COVID-19 pandemic, but declined to say how much money will be allocated. Following the summit, which was joined by leaders from China, Japan, and South Korea, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang also declared his support for a $5 billion recovery package proposed by Beijing-backed Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, or AIIB. Vietnam has had some success in containing the virus through extensive quarantines and social distancing. It has recorded 265 infections, no deaths, while Thailand has also kept its numbers relatively low with just over 2,500 cases and 40 deaths. The situation is mixed elsewhere across the region, with fears that limited testing in Indonesia has played out into the low caseload and under 400 deaths for the country of 260 million. Similarly, threadbare health systems from Myanmar to Laos are widely believed to be missing the true scale of infections. A recent surge in cases in Singapore has raised fears the pandemic could rebound in places which had batted back the initial outbreak. Vietnam used the 10-member summit to propose funding to deal with the pandemic, an idea backed by both Malaysia and the Philippines. Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte warned he was particularly concerned with food security. The whole region has been hit hard by the virus. In Vietnam, many factories are still running, but in a sign of the ongoing risks, dozens of workers at a Samsung unit in the north were ordered into quarantine after one had tested positive for the virus. The Thai economy, meanwhile, the second largest in ASEAN, is expected to shrink by 5.3% this year, a 22-year low with millions left jobless in the politically febrile kingdom. Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc and the outcomes of the special ASEAN and ASEAN 3 summits on COVID-19. We have a report coming in from Ralph Randolph Empire, joining us live from Hanoi, Vietnam. Hello, Ralph.
Hi there, Alma.
Hello. What are your updates for us, Ralph?
Yes, the Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc, as the chairman of ASEAN in 2020, chaired the special ASEAN and ASEAN Plus 3 summits on coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19 in the form of video conference on April 14. On this occasion, the Prime Minister has granted an interview on the outcomes of these two important events. Asked about the challenges that the COVID-19 pandemic has posed to ASEAN in general, and the Vietnam ASEAN Chairmanship Year 2020 in particular, Prime Minister Phuc stressed that the COVID-19 pandemic is the greatest challenge to humankind and an unprecedented global crisis since after the Second World War, and also the biggest challenge to the ASEAN during its more than half a century history of formation and development. After only over 3 months, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused devastating losses of human health and life as well as social and economic aspects, which are predicted to far surpass the impact of the 1997 financial crisis in Asia or the global crisis in 2008 to 2009, he said. He noted at this moment, all countries in the ASEAN region have had COVID-19 infections, with more than 18,000 cases and over 740 deaths. I quote, "Not only causing great human loss, the pandemic also seriously affected all aspects of socioeconomic life in ASEAN countries and cooperation and exchange activities among ASEAN members as well as between ASEAN and its partners. All ASEAN countries are forecast to suffer from strong decrease in growth, and some will even have negative growth. Regarding ASEAN cooperation, statistics of the ASEAN Secretariat showed more than 200 meetings of the bloc had to be postponed or cancelled," unquote. He went on to say that right from the beginning of this year, as chair of ASEAN, Vietnam, together with other member countries, has actively and urgently made preparations for and got ready to organize activities during ASEAN Chairmanship Year 2020. However, with a sudden outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic and its unprecedented impacts on all fields, we had to make necessary adjustments to the plans for those activities. According to the Prime Minister, with a motto of putting people's health first, maintaining connectivity and close coordination in preventing and fighting the epidemic, ASEAN member countries have organized many important ministerial level meetings in the form of video conference, as well as meetings with partners such as China, the EU, the US, and important international organizations like the WHO to share experience and help for the effective response to the epidemic. He added that at the same time, we continue to consider holding important ASEAN events when the epidemic is put under control. Prime Minister Phuc highlighted the quick response of ASEAN member nations to the COVID-19 pandemic since its outbreak, saying that they have enhanced cohesion in policy and action coordination to effectively contain the spread of the disease. He said in a statement, and I quote, "Vietnam early issued an ASEAN chair statement on the bloc's collective response to COVID-19 on February 14 and held many important meetings among ASEAN member states and between the group with its partners to ensure concerted coordination in epidemic prevention and to share experience and support to effectively cope with the pandemics," unquote. The Prime Minister called for closer cooperation and solidarity among ASEAN countries to fight the pandemic. He said, and I quote, "If we unite, no danger can subdue us. I think that individual efforts need to be reunited, becoming a joint action of the ASEAN community," unquote. Timely response and close coordination in policy and action among the 10 ASEAN member countries will be the decisive factor in containing the epidemic, he said. He also mentioned that apart from controlling the disease, ASEAN also needs to pay social or special attention to minimizing socioeconomic impacts caused by the pandemic. It is necessary to take people as the center and ensure social security in the region, leaving no one behind, he noted. In the immediate future, what needs to be done is to provide timely support to disadvantaged groups and financial and economic support packages for businesses to help them stabilize their production and business and maintain trade activities, he went on. In the long run, each ASEAN member nation and whole community need to enhance their resilience and preparedness for future shocks, Prime Minister Phuc said, adding that promoting connection and intertwined interest and reducing development gap among members would be the long-term solutions to challenges similar to COVID-19. Prime Minister Phuc also expressed his belief that ASEAN will soon overcome the pandemic, which he said will create a motivation for member nations to grow stronger together. Prime Minister Phuc underlined that the COVID-19 pandemic has proven that the theme cohesive and responsive that Vietnam has chosen for its ASEAN chairmanship year 2020 is timely and completely right. Efforts by Vietnam as ASEAN chair over the past time have reflected the spirit of the theme and that Vietnam has really turned words into specific actions. He added, and I quote, joining hands in stamping out COVID-19 is the top priority of ASEAN. The way we are working together to tackle the pandemic will affirm the mettle and strength of the grouping, unquote. Assuming the ASEAN chairmanship in this especially hard time, Vietnam is deeply aware of its responsibility and resolve side with other member countries to sail over the crisis. Right after the pandemic broke out, Vietnam has proactively taken swift actions, led and coordinated joint efforts of ASEAN while cooperating with partners in containing and stemming the spread of the disease and mitigating its socio-economic impacts. The Prime Minister mentioned some specific actions, Alma. First of all, the early issue of the statement of the ASEAN chair on the grouping's collective response to COVID-19 in a timely manner, warning about the pandemic threat at an early date, calling for regional international cooperation, emphasizing the spirit of intra-bloc solidarity and committing to joining hands in containing and preventing the spread of the disease, thus ensuring a safe life for the public. Secondly, Vietnam has flexibly pushed for the organization of ASEAN meetings in the video conferencing format. The solution helps the group maintain connectivity, close and comprehensive coordination, and prompt response to COVID-19. The meetings focus on three action orientations: information and experience sharing, policy and action coordination. Thirdly, as ASEAN chair, Vietnam have made efforts to enhance cooperation with other countries and international organizations in order to raise the efficiency of the fight against the pandemic. Coordinated and joined many important meetings with such partners as China, the EU, the US, the WHO, and the online G20 summit to discuss cooperation for the early control of the epidemic. Such tireless efforts of Vietnam as chair of the ASEAN have brought about initial results in pandemic prevention and control, Prime Minister Phuc said, expressing his belief that together with countries and partners in and outside ASEAN, Vietnam's efforts will contribute to duplicating good experience and lessons so that the region and the world stamp out the pandemic. Back to you, Alma.
All right, I guess I don't need to ask more questions. You had it all. Thank you very much, Ralph, for that comprehensive report. Thank you very much, and keep the updates coming regarding ASEAN and other happenings there in Vietnam. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, Alma. Reporting live from Hanoi, Vietnam. This is Ralph Pandong, FI. We live in interesting times.
The World Health Organization is urging the Cambodian government to prepare for a potential large-scale outbreak of the coronavirus. Joining us live from Cambodia is Crystal Ann Ballesteros. Crystal.
Good afternoon, Alma.
Good afternoon, Crystal.
The World Health Organization on Monday urged the Cambodian government to prepare for a potential large-scale outbreak of the respiratory disease in the country and to bolster stocks of personal protective equipment, face masks, and ventilators. The Ministry of Health and relevant stakeholders held a press conference on Monday where the World Health Organization country representative Dr. Lee Aidan said the situation in Cambodia remains very, very serious, despite the low number of reported cases. There has been speculations over Cambodia's response and preparedness to the novel coronavirus pandemic, with questions raised over its monitoring capabilities, healthcare standards, and if sufficient testing was being carried out to identify new cases. Another concern has been whether Cambodia has conducted a sufficient amount of testing to identify a representative number of positive cases, thereby providing an insight into whether community transmission was prevalent in the country. Cambodia has around 670 medical doctors to help tackle the viral pandemic in the country. Prime Minister Hun Sen has said that Cambodia prepared some 3,000 makeshift hospital beds across the country by using schools and had purchased more than 5 million face masks for healthcare workers and people. During Tuesday's ASEAN Virtual Summit on COVID-19, Hun Sen urged ASEAN member states to provide support to each other, including the sharing of resources, techniques, medical equipment, and supplies. The Prime Minister added that Cambodia also supports the establishment of COVID-19 ASEAN Fund. As Cambodia continued to prepare with a wide possible outbreak of COVID-19, Cambodia is among the first batch of 42 countries across the world that will receive from the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, equipment that uses nuclear-derived techniques for rapidly detecting COVID-19. The Emergency Assistance Package is part of the Austria-based IAEA's response to requests for support from around 90 member states in controlling the increase of COVID-19 infections worldwide. The IAEA said real-time RT-PCR originally used radioactive isotope markers to detect genetic material from a virus in a sample. Through subsequent refining of the technique, the more common fluorescent markers are now used. Laboratories in some countries will get diagnostic machines and kits, reagents, and consumables to speed up mass testing, a crucial step in containing the pandemic. Also included in the package are biosafety supplies such as personal protection equipment and laboratory cabinets for the safe analysis of collected samples. The IAEA said more deliveries would be made as more countries were expected to also seek help in the coming weeks. Back to you, Alma.
Okay, so how is the rate of spread and recovery over there in Cambodia?
Alma, according to Ministry of Health, 14 more COVID-19 patients in Cambodia have recovered, raising the total number of patients in the kingdom so far to 91, or 74.59% out of 122 COVID-19 positive patients in Cambodia. Cambodia reported 122 cases with 2 consecutive days of no new cases, meaning 3/4 of infected patients had recovered from the virus, and no one in Cambodia has died.
All right. Thank you very much, Crystal, for that update. And keep the updates coming. Of course, keep safe and always stay healthy. Thank you for your update. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alma. Let's be positive, but not with COVID. I am
Indeed.
Crystal Anbalisteros, and we live in interesting times.
Okay, over in Thailand, Pattaya will enforce a ramped-up lockdown with more screening checkpoints. We have more of that report from our EBC correspondent from Pattaya, Esther Odanga. Hello, Esther.
Hello, good afternoon, Alma,
Good
and to our
afternoon.
viewers all around the world. So here's the latest update in Pattaya, Thailand. First, the local residents have urged Pattaya city officials to solve the growing homeless problem in Pattaya as numbers of visible homeless have grown dramatically during the past few weeks in central Pattaya, primarily due to the COVID-19 crisis. Locals have raised concerns that although there have always been a few homeless in the area before, the numbers now have been steadily increasing in the area, with an estimated 90% of businesses closed in Pattaya due to the pandemic. The concerned residents told that after Pattaya Beach and parks were officially closed, the homeless were allegedly kicked off the beach and out of the parks where most of them slept. Now they sleep in front of closed shops and businesses, of which they are more highly visible. And now here's an update for the new checkpoint arrangement. Today, Pattaya City will have a trial period on new closure restrictions, and tomorrow will be the full implementation. Pattaya City Mayor Santaya Kunpum said that new closure zones will have 8 checkpoints on roads for both Chonburi and Sarahip inbound. He said in a statement that people who do not have ID cards but have to enter Pattaya for work will have to fill out documents. He is advising everyone to get documents together now to decrease traffic jams when the new closure starts tomorrow. As for the foreigners, they must have valid documents like their original passports and proof of residence, and entering Pattaya City will only be for essential reasons and must need proof such as doctor's appointment or immigration appointment. And if a foreigner is working, they must have their valid work permit. Back to you, Alma.
Esther, the decision to blockade Pattaya City went into force last April 9, 2 p.m. That was lifted, right? Now, what made the authorities lift that lockdown?
Well, the province saw one of the worst traffic snarls Pattaya has ever experienced, as residents spent hours stuck in their cars waiting to present their papers to the authorities to get permission to enter Pattaya, where they live and work. And the majority of people did not even have necessary papers nor knew what it was about. There were 5 checkpoints that were meant to control the flow of people in and out of Pattaya, so as to prevent the spread of virus amongst residents and tourists. And having seen that blockade plan was not going as smoothly as expected, Banglamong District Chief Amnar Charansi and Pattaya Mayor Santaya Kumpum convened an urgent meeting to discuss the serious matter. The checkpoints had caused tremendous inconvenience to the people of Pattaya and surrounding areas, causing a huge uproar among the people here. So to appease the people here, the city fathers decided to lift the blockade with immediate effect. But then again, today, Alma, Pattaya Mayor Santaya Kumpum said he enforced a ramped-up coronavirus lockdown tomorrow with more screening checkpoints being set up in Resort City here in Chonburi. He said the number of checkpoints has been increased from 5 to 8 along Sukhumvit Road, leading to the city to screen vehicles and people entering. Non-residents or people not working in Pattaya will be barred entry to the city until the situation returns to normal. Alma?
Okay, so what documents do they need to show in order to enter Pattaya? And what about foreigners? And what do they need to show?
Okay.
What kind of documents? Yeah.
So the foreigners must have their original passport and proof of residence. This can be the housing certificate, a driver's license with their address, or even bills in their names at the residence. And like I said, entering Pattaya will be for essential reasons only.
All right, thank you very much, Esther, and we'll see you back later. Thank you so much for your time. Stay safe.
Okay. Thank you, Alma, and it's my pleasure reporting live from Pattaya, Thailand. This is Esther Danga. We live in interesting times.
ASEAN in Focus, we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
This program is co-presented by Kubert Industries Incorporated, Electromechanical Trading and Services, The Cooling Expert, Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee, Masarap, Mabango at Healthy Pa, Cadwood Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. In participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint, color for protection for your home. Matimco. Matimco is wood. Wood is Matimco. Our Square Variables Incorporated, your trusted UPS supplier and UPS maintenance provider in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. CompuZell Computer Services, ID card and lanyard manufacturer, DN Steel, EMAC, UPVC Roof Corporation,
Malaysia has called on the ASEAN Plus 3 partners to ensure that Asia-Pacific nations recover from the economic impact of COVID-19. And also the IMF said that Malaysia's GDP will grow 9% in 2021. That will be the fastest among ASEAN 5 countries. That and more from our ABC correspondent, Ruby Tinawin. Ruby.
Yes, Alma, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ruby.
For Malaysia's headline, these are the reports. Yes, in a special ASEAN Summit, plus 3 summit on COVID-19, conducted via a video conference yesterday, Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said Malaysia has proposed that ASEAN formulates an economic recovery plan caused COVID-19. The focus is not only on the financial aspect, but also on social safety nets, food security, and education. During his speech, he pointed out the following. He said it is imperative for ASEAN countries to work closely with its plus 3 partners to ensure that Asia-Pacific recovers from the economic impact of COVID-19. He also said the COVID-19 pandemic is a combination of a health and economic crisis. His take is to utilize the ASEAN Plus 3 Emergency Rice Reserve to ensure that ASEAN citizens are not threatened by food shortage in the near future. He also said he gave a remarks by calling ASEAN members and its plus 3 partners to jointly stabilize the manufacturing and supply of essential goods and services, including vital medical supplies and critical agricultural products in the face of the crisis. This is to preserve the welfare of the collective 600 million citizens covered by the ASEAN nation. In his statement, he pointed interdependence and unity is the order of the day, and no nation can go successfully maneuver through this crisis alone. Meanwhile, Malaysia today announced that $300 million, that's equivalent to 1.3 billion ringgit, from 1MDB has been returned to the government by the United States of America. Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said the amount represents the funds recovered from asset confiscations related to 1MDB under the Kleptocracy Asset Recovery Initiative of the U.S. Department of Justice. The money was part of the more than $4.5 billion that U.S. investigators say was looted from the state-owned investment firm, with alleged help from Malaysia's ex-Prime Minister Najib Razak and his inner circle. The U.S. says that from 2009 to 2015, high-level officials of 1MDB and a high-flying young businessman named Loh Tek Jo, or also known as Joe Loh, siphoned off the billions originally meant to fund state investments. Loh used a lot of the money to buy luxurious homes and on top-level art and invest in Hollywood movies, including the Martin Scorsese's hit Wolf of Wall Street. The U.S. Justice Department sees most of lost assets and has been slowly liquidating them for return to Malaysia. Meanwhile, the International Monetary Fund has projected that Malaysia's real gross domestic product will grow at a rate of 9% next year, the fastest among ASEAN 5 countries, which are expected to see a combined GDP growth of 7.8%. Besides Malaysia, ASEAN 5 includes Indonesia, Thailand, the Philippines, and Vietnam, which are set to expand by 8.2%, 6.1%, 7.6%, and 7% respectively. For 2020, the Washington-based organization forecasts Malaysia's economy to contract 1.7%. As the ASEAN 5 GDP shrinks 0.6%. The IMF 2021 projection for Malaysia is higher than Fitch Ratings growth forecast of 5.8%. The global growth is expected to rebound to 5.8% in 2021, well above trend, reflecting the normalization of economic activity from very low levels. However, IMF said the rebound in 2021 depends critically on the pandemic fading in the second half of 2020, allowing containment efforts to be gradually scaled back and restoring consumer and investors' confidence. Significant economic policy actions have already been taken across the world, focused on accommodating public health care requirements while limiting the amplification to economic activity and the financial system. The projected recovery assumes that these policy actions are effective in preventing widespread firm bankruptcies, extended job losses, and system-wide financial strain. Now, back here in Malaysia, phase 3 of the movement control order begins today in an ongoing effort to break the chain of COVID-19 infection in the country. The MCO was first enforced on March 18, but was extended before its expiration on April 14 to April 28. The extension now will stretch into the first week of Ramadan, which is expected to commence on April 23. To ensure a higher level of public compliance, the government has decided that from today, anyone caught defying the order will be summarily detained for legal action. This differs from the first and second phases of the MCO when only compounds were issued to violators. The government will also set up a coordination hub to better channel aid to the increasing number of people requiring assistance during the movement control order. According to the Health Ministry, Malaysia has recorded 82 deaths and 4,987 COVID-19 infections as of Tuesday. The Health Ministry is building 5 more new laboratories to carry out detection tests for COVID-19. The 5 laboratories are expected to be built in Sabah, particularly in Tawau and Sandakan, in Miri and Bintulu in Sarawak, and also in Kluang, Johor, bringing to 48 the total number of laboratories under Ministry of Health in the country. Alma?
Okay. I've never asked you about this, but how are the healthcare workers over there in Malaysia? How are they being taken care of by the government?
Okay, there are packages meant for them.
Okay.
And also, just like other countries, they were offered places to stay by hotels.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, there are free deliveries of food given to them by Grab drivers. Now, the only sad thing now is PPE is running out of supply.
Mm-hmm.
So there are many, private organizations providing help. They are making all this PPE for them.
Mm-hmm.
Now itself, the N95 mask is also a problem here in Malaysia.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was an announcement that U.S. has stopped exporting this type of mask here. So it's also a call from the Ministry of Health to actually think of alternative masks that they can use to actually substitute to this N95.
Mm-hmm.
And as I mentioned also the other day, there were lots of innovation. Different universities are coming up with inventions, all meant to help the frontliners, the health personnel, to actually aid them as they carry out their job, Alma.
Mm-hmm. So there are now initiatives by the government to help the healthcare workers provide PPEs and 95 masks and all that.
Yes, all of that are being put in place.
Okay.
Yes, and also not to forget those who have retired Those health workers who have retired years back, either they are nurses or doctors, they were all called back, and they came back to service. You know, more than
Oh.
1,000 of them are helping the government.
Okay. So they were called back to service to help with this crisis. Around 1,000 of them? Did you
Yes, that's
say?
right, Alma. That's right.
Oh, okay. Interesting. How about how is the government assisting the unemployed?
The stimulus package that they came up with, because now the MCO is extended, right? So we are supposed to end the MCO yesterday, which
Yes.
is phase 2 up to April 14.
Okay.
But the announcement was made last April 10 that there will be phase 3, which is running from April 15, that's today, until April 28.
Okay.
So from there, they also came up with new additional stimulus package. Actually, they also have started because the opening of businesses is extended not just to essential, not just to those who provide essential services, but to also additional few more sectors. However, they need to get permit. So that started 2 days ago, and the government said it may take a couple of days to actually go through the applications before they award those permits, because not all companies can operate Alma. They made it clear that the priority is given to those who are from the green zones, meaning
Okay.
those places without any record of COVID-19 infections. Alma?
Oh, okay. So these businesses, any kind of businesses, any kind of business, as long as they are in the green zone, is that what you're saying? They'll be given permits with the right documents, of course.
Not to say any kind, they have itemized it. Some of those
Okay.
are in automotive,
Okay.
electronic and electrical services, those salons, those who have healthcare, those who provide even restaurants. But then, again, the first requirement is you must be from the green zone. Second is you must fall into that list that they allow. Even laundry service, you know, laundry shops are now being allowed. Again, provided you fulfill that criteria. Alma?
All right. Thank you very much, Ruby, for your updates, and keep them coming. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Alma. Reporting live from Malaysia, this is Ruby Tinawin. We live in interesting times.
All right, let's head on over to Japan. Joining us live is Dennis Liu. Hello, Dennis.
Hello, Alma. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Right. Tokyo Metropolitan Government established a policy of subsidizing the initial cost for new start up of delivery and take-out businesses of restaurants in compliance to request to shorten office hours due to the spread of new coronavirus infection. The government support restaurants that change their business formats and encourage residents to refrain from going out. Governor Yuriko Koike have included this emergency measure in the city. A maximum of 1 million yen per operator will be subsidized as the initial cost of home delivery and takeout. The number of businesses to be subsidized is expected to be about 400, and the total budget is expected to be 400 million yen. The subsidy is intended to cover the cost of small-scale remodeling of containers and stores as well. In other local news, hours spent at home increases due to the request for refraining from going out due to the spread of the new coronavirus infection. The LDP Women's Bureau will expand the consultation system with the government as concerns over child abuse and domestic violence are increasing. Eriko Imai, the director of the Women's Bureau, Junko Mihara of the Kanagawa constituency of the Upper House, handed the request to the parliamentary secretaries of the Cabinet Office to help solution the cause of these problems. Meanwhile, in the northern part of Japan, JR Hokkaido decided on a policy of implementing temporary leave employees due to the decrease in danger after the spread of the new coronavirus infection. Alma?
All right. Janice, Prime Minister Shinzo Abe also attended the ASEAN +3 virtual meeting to discuss ways to tackle the coronavirus situation, pandemic. Can you give us a bit more detail on what progress was made at this summit in the standpoint of Japan?
Yes, Alma. Prime Minister Abe on Tuesday held a video conference with leaders of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. During the meet, he acknowledged that Japan depends heavily on ASEAN members for medical supplies, along with the heads of China and South Korea. The participants of the talk agreed to work together to maintain the distribution of the products. Japan is experiencing acute shortages of high-performance masks. Prime Minister Abe Shinzo today made a teleconference with medical product makers and firms interested in starting to produce much items. He is asking for the increased production of face masks, sanitizers, ventilators, and other products. Also, Alma, Prime Minister Abe discussed with Philippine President Duterte the anti-flu drug Avigan to treat patients diagnosed with COVID-19. This also took place during the special online summit with the ASEAN +3. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe explained that clinical research is being conducted on Avigan. Prime Minister Abe said several participants expressed interest in the drug. Japan plans to provide the drug, also known as Favipiravir, to at least 20 countries for free in order to expand studies on its efficacy. Alma.
All right. Thank you very much, Dennis, for your updates, and we'll see you back later. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. This is Dennis Liu from Tokyo, reporting live. We live in interesting times.
ASEAN and its +3 dialogue partners, China, Japan, and South Korea, have agreed in principle to set up a joint fund to combat the COVID-19 pandemic. That and more from our EBC correspondent in Thailand, Gila Pablo. Hello, Gila.
Good afternoon, Alma. So here's the update here in Thailand. ASEAN and its +3 dialogue partners, China, Japan, South Korea, have agreed in principle to setting up a joint fund to combat the coronavirus pandemic following a virtual summit by government spokeswoman Narumon Yusinwat said on Tuesday. The Third Nations Special Summit initiated by ASEAN comes as the region struggles to contain the COVID-19 outbreak. However, the amount was not decided upon during the special meeting between the Southeast Asian nations, China, South Korea, and Japan. The Director General of the Asian Affairs Department in China's Foreign Ministry, Wu Jianghao, said the money would come from an existing cooperation fund. He also revealed all parties had agreed to set up a reserve medical supply center, noting that the most urgent task was to contain the spread of the virus. He said China will share its experience and research and provide technical assistance, according to the star.com.my. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang said all countries must cooperate more closely for a collective response to the pandemic. We have gained valuable experience in jointly tackling crisis and have put in place mechanisms for enhancing emergency preparedness. As we all live in this community with a shared future, we must work for an early victory against COVID-19 in East Asia, he said in a statement. During talks between ASEAN leaders on Tuesday morning, Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha proposed repurposing funds to support efforts to deal with the ongoing threat. General Prayut then attended the evening ASEAN +3 special summit via video conferencing. According to Ms. Narumon, who revealed the gist of the meeting, General Prayut and other ASEAN leaders commended the leaders of the +3 countries for their efforts and effective measure against COVID-19, which could considerably decrease infections and deaths. All the leaders accepted that COVID-19 is a global crisis that has impacted all sectors of society. In his statement at the ASEAN +3 Special Summit, General Prayut proposed 3 approaches. The first one, Alma, was establishing a COVID-19 ASEAN Response Fund by allocating money from the ASEAN Development Fund and cooperation funds with China, Japan, and South Korea. This would be to handle short-term impacts such as recurring test kits, personal protective equipment, and related medical equipment, and of course, long-term measures such as developing new vaccines and medicines. A second proposal involved optimizing existing ASEAN Plus 3 mechanisms, especially in public health, to develop and promote the use of information technology to provide innovative solutions to tackling pandemic and future challenges. General Prayut also proposed the ASEAN Secretariat and the Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat to compile and exchange information on related policies and measures of each country, and to make the most use of Chiang Mai Initiative multilateralization to mitigate negative impacts and regain regional economic and financial stability where necessary. The Prime Minister also emphasized that close partnerships and sustainable development would lead everyone out of the crisis. We will overcome COVID-19 crisis together, said General Prayut. The virtual ASEAN summit was proposed by Indonesia since the virus, first detected late last year in the central Chinese city of Wuhan, has spread worldwide, dealing a crushing blow to social and economic activities across the globe. Most of the ASEAN leaders focused on two things. The first was their common efforts to fight against COVID-19. The second was cooperation to deal with the impacts of the outbreak in socio-economic sectors by Indonesian Foreign Minister Retno Marsudi said during a video press conference. Mr. Marsudi also, who attended the online summit with Indonesian President Joko Widodo, added the leaders of the 10-member bloc also agreed to bolster antivirus efforts in such areas as information, research, epidemiology, and clinical treatment. Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte told the video conference, retreating from regional and global connections cannot be the answer, according to his Presidential Communications Operations Office. Also quoted, regardless of how we handle the crisis within our own respective territories, we can only be truly safe if we defeat this virus everywhere, Mr. Duterte added. The ASEAN meeting was chaired by Vietnam, which holds the rotating ASEAN chair this year. In opening remarks, Vietnam's Premier Nguyen Xuan Phuc hailed the work of ASEAN in fighting the virus so far. He said COVID-19 has badly impacted people's lives, their socio-economic situation, challenging stability and social security. And still, in connection with the fight against COVID, Alma, back here in Bangkok, Thailand, the Civil Aviation Authority of Thailand, or CAAT, has extended its inbound flight ban to April 30, except repatriation flights and some others for coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19 control. CAAT's Director General Chula Sokmanop announced the ban extension on its media on Wednesday morning. It was the third extension of the ban, which was first imposed on April 3. It cited the necessity to maintain the continuation of measures to control the disease. He extended the ban on inbound passenger flights from 12:01 a.m. on April 19 to 11:59 p.m. on April 30 and revoked his previous permissions for inbound passenger flights during the period. The ban spares state and military aircraft making emergency landing, and those aircraft making technical landing without disembarkation. It also spares humanitarian aid, medical and relief flights, as well as repatriation and cargo flights. People arriving on the exempted flights are subject to disease control measures, including 14-day quarantine and relevant measures imposed under the executive decree on public administration in emergency situations. Alma?
All right. Thank you very much, Gila, for those updates. Keep safe, stay healthy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Alma. Reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand, this is Gila Pablo. We live in interesting times.
In Singapore, the city-state is allowing teachers now to resume using Zoom. That is the video conferencing platform. following its suspension for online lessons last week after gatecrashers interrupted a class and made lewd comments. Now, Zoom, which has exploded in popularity but faces growing security concerns, said it has now taken steps to address the Education Ministry's worries, including giving officials control over teacher accounts. Singapore reported 1,315 cases. In hospital, there stable are 1,287. Hospitalized, those that are critical, are 28. Discharged to isolation, 1,315. Discharged already is 611, and they reported 10 deaths. Malaysian scientists have created a barrel-shaped robot on wheels that they hope will make the rounds on hospital wards to check on coronavirus patients. This will reduce health workers' risk of infection. Take a look.
Okay, so screen. Screen.
All right, newborn babies are being given face shields in an effort to halt the spread of the coronavirus at Praram 9 Hospital in Bangkok. Take a look. In a post on Facebook, the hospital said that these face shields were for a unique case, just for the baby's journey home from the hospital, and are not usually given to all newborn babies in the hospital. Now, the masks are designed to stop any droplets with the virus from coughs or sneezes from reaching the baby's face. In a statement on Facebook, staff at the Praram 9 Hospital in the capital of Bangkok said the masks were being used because safety is what we care about most. BBC Thailand reported the visors are part of an effort to give new mothers at the hospital peace of mind. According to the outlet, the masks aren't to be worn all the time as they could become unhygienic for the newborns. Instead, there are 4 instances where parents have no other options, such as transporting babies from the hospital to home. While the coronavirus has been most deadly for older people, babies are also at risk. According to the CDC, a newborn baby is susceptible to person-to-person spread of the coronavirus. And that is the latest news in the ASEAN region and elsewhere. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times.